The National Energy Regulator of South Africa has approved the free basic electricity rate for poor households. This, as the rate now sits at 194.40 cents per kilowatt hour for the 2024-2025 financial year, which starts next month. Energy expert Ruse Moleshe joins us now for more on that. Ruse, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Looking at the access challenges, the infrastructure challenges, and so on and so forth, this rate, is this anything to celebrate that we've got such a policy and such a program in place?
Very good evening to you and good evening to the listeners. It is, to an extent, maybe one could argue about sufficiency, but it's a subsidy that considers the indigent households from an affordability of electricity point of view. So if you're consuming less, like 50 kilowatt hours, at least you are able to get free basic electricity.
Yeah. From sufficiency point of view is one conversation, and we'll talk about it now, because I think Nersa is also raising the issue of the allocation. But if you were to look at the Public Affairs Research Institute 2023 report, it highlights that the number of households receiving this free basic electricity benefit has generally declined over the past 5 years, but the amount that Treasury is allocating to this particular policy is ever increasing. Why is there that disconnect?
I'm not really sure why that would be the case, but I guess it's the increases in electricity prices in general, getting relatively more expensive electricity, whilst the quantities still remain the same. So it's not as significant in terms of the actual value. Yeah.
Yeah. They seem to think there's actually some degree of misappropriation of the budget because, for example, one of the reports from the Auditor General reflecting that 9 billion rands, which was budgeted for this, coming from municipalities, was misappropriated. So they are saying the way that this program is structured actually does not benefit the people that is intended to benefit.
Yeah, so I think there's room. I wouldn't know about really whether there's corruption, misappropriation or not, but I suppose maybe it's long overdue that the way that it's allocated, because how it's allocated is that if you consume 50 kilowatt hours per month of electricity, and then anything that's above that incrementally gets charged. So it's not really clear with different municipalities how they implement the actual process. So it's probably in the implementation in different municipalities, and it's a case-by-case issue.
Yeah. Let's look at that 50 kilowatt per hour. Salga has made submissions to say that it is minute. In fact, the poor household on average would require to use anything between 300 kilowatts to 400 kilowatts per hour. This particular report as well suggesting to increase the allocation to 350 kilowatts per hour, saying that would need to be the minimum threshold. Now, I see in the statement by Nersa also saying they would want to engage with all the relevant government departments with regards to reviewing the 50 kilowatt unit per month, considering the changes in the economic conditions since this was first implemented in 2003. Do you think it's up for a review? I mean, if since 2003 that has not shifted at all, it surely is not relevant to the people that it's meant to benefit now.
Yes, I would certainly agree with that. 2003 is a long time. I mean, from a policy point of view, it was a good consideration to be able to provide for the indigent households. So the intention is good. However, from time to time, policies need to be reviewed to see if they are still relevant. And as you correctly point out, from an economic point of view, we have shifted since 2003. So I think it's time, opportune time to review and see whether this is still appropriate. I would also argue that it's relatively low at this point.
And those with means to benefit, right? I mean, to actually pay. How do you ensure that they are not continuing to benefit from this particular system and abusing it?
It's similar to how the water issue is, where the more you consume, incrementally, the more you pay. So I don't think that a rich person would consume 50 kilowatt hours. They have many appliances and much more in terms of the needs for electricity. So automatically, by virtue of the amount of consumption that they take, then they would pay more.
Yeah. So the story that we just played now, of course, Eskom saying, well, those are individuals, firstly, who would have bought their prepaid units from unauthorized sources, but others are bypassing the electricity meters. And it's been argued that that in itself also undermines the relevance of having an effective, free, basic electricity program, because one, it robs the municipalities who distribute, but also robs Eskom of the revenue.
It robs everyone in the system, because we as consumers end up paying for the costs of producing electricity. So if there's inefficiency and there are those that are taking and not paying back, it means that eventually it's going to come up in terms of the tariff. It's going to cost all of us. It's going to cost the economy. We'll have a ripple effect. And eventually South Africa's competitiveness as a country with other countries. So it is definitely negative issue, and it's something that government has been grappling with for a long time. It's probably long overdue that some solution is found with regards to that.
And finally, if I let you go on to this, because we are coming from elections and we were hearing a lot about this in the 30-year review of the goal of universal access. So far, saying we've got at least 94.7% access. It seems the goal of going beyond that remains elusive. What could be the challenge of us going beyond that? I know there's a backlog of close to 3 million now, 1.2 million of those being in informal settlements around South Africa.
I think it's the growth. It can be attributed to the growth, whether it's from immigration and just the population that are growing, that over time you're demanding even more and more electricity. So that's one of the issues.
Yeah. Internal capacity in the municipalities, do you think they have financial constraints? How are those impacting? And maybe municipalities also facing some legal challenges as far as electrifying informal settlements?
I mean, to reach the goal of universal access, it keeps on being elusive, in the sense that some of the municipalities themselves are struggling with respect to the infrastructure that is not kept up to speed, and therefore just to obtain, for the ones that are connected, reliability of supply becomes an issue, because we tend to have breakdowns. So to even now extend the connections to others, it becomes even more difficult. As you correctly point out, some municipalities are struggling financially. They're not even able, excuse me, to pay Eskom. So it's a difficult issue to navigate. It continues to be.
Ruse Moleshe, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and your analysis here this evening. Energy expert there, Ruse Moleshe, on the latest announcement by Nersa.